a thread by Carlos Osuita. Almost everyone who supported Tulsi Gabbard opposes President Trump. That's because these people are crippled by confirmation bias. I want to show you what this despicable woman actually stood for. From thenationalinterest.org, is Tulsi Gabbard right about Syria? She's not wrong. Carlos responds from the article on Bashar al-Assad, quote, the United States must sometimes tolerate the existence of brutal foreign governments, especially if they share a common interest in fighting the same terrorist groups as America, end quote. Gabbard said that we should, quote, work with Assad because he fights al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Well, Syria is itself a state sponsor of terrorism. From refworld.org, Country Reports on Terrorism 2017. Quote, over the last decade, the Assad regime's permissive attitude towards al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups' foreign terrorist fighter facilitation efforts during the Iraq conflict in turn fed the growth of al-Qaeda, ISIS, and affiliated terrorist networks inside Syria, end quote. Assad is exactly the opposite of what Gabbard says he is, and she knows it. Libertarians loved her for opposing regime change wars. Guess what her plan for Iraq was? Quote, part of the solution, Gabbard argues, is dividing Iraq into 3 states for the Shiite, Sunni, and Kurdish populations to ease the sectarian tensions that have long plagued the country, including after the US invasion in 2003. If we don't address the sectarian issues that have been rumbling below the surface for so long that we're going to continue to see that oxygen that allows ISIS to maintain a stronghold, Gabbard said. It's disappointing that we, the United States, is not leveraging whatever influence we still have in that country to move in that direction. From thehill.com, Hawaii Dem takes on Obama. She opposes regime change, but wants to stamp out the existence of an entire country. This solution would be imposed on the Iraqis by the United States. They would get no say in it. She said a lot of really stupid stuff from that same article. Each of these different terrorist groups that are basically all being fueled by the same ideology, and none of them can be defeated with a military-only strategy, she said. Tell that to the Iraqis, Saudis, Emiratis, and Syrian Kurds. This is October of 2015 in Syria. Fixed-wing turboprop gunship with 2 automatic cannons. Not American. There is a purely military solution for Islamist terrorist groups, but Americans can't be involved except peripherally. Trump has ended our history of interventionism, and he's no isolationist. He's a nationalist internationalist, as am I. America first, but will help if asked, and the locals must do the heavy lifting. Gabbard said that Trump and Saudi Arabia support and arm al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Link in the thread to a YouTube video with Tulsi saying that. This makes her what we call a scumbag. She said there are no secular rebel groups in Syria. Jaish al-Tuar fought only jihadists, and they used advanced, completely unknown weapons. Here are hip-fired, guided incendiary rockets with no backblast. First rocket goes through that tiny firing slit in the building and ignites the interior. See the bright light on the other firing slit? Second rocket, part 1. Rocketeer is on the right here. See? Bam. Firing. Explosion, aftermath. Second rocket, part 2. The giant explosion was inside the tower. The entire interior was incinerated. Those are Saudis, Tulsi. You know, the people who were going to rewrite the Quran to update it. The Saudis are saving the Middle East. The reason they gave Trump, Melania, Kushner, and Ivanka such a welcome is that we're on board. No more sticking our big, fat butts into their business. Tulsi Gabbard was a worse choice than Biden because she has all the same authoritarian leftist tendencies, but is also an active supporter of Assad and, by extension, Iran. Remember, she wanted to divide Iraq into 3 countries by force. And she said that we abandoned the Syrian Kurds to Turkish genocide. Nope. The Kurds and the Syrians had secretly negotiated a deal that I read. It preserves Syrian Kurdish semi-autonomy. That deal did many things. It prevented another war, this time between the Kurds and Assad. 2, it saved face for the Turks. 3, it thwarted Putin's plans to occupy northeastern Syria. If you've read my threads, you know that I think the Saudis infiltrated al-Qaeda in Syria, allowing their agent Mohammed Abu Julani to become emir. His background is entirely unknown, and he's the only jihadist emir from 2011 who's still alive. Al-Qaeda in Syria eventually became Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, and their plan is to lay down their arms and become a political party. They've cleaned northwestern Syria of all Islamic groups. From MiddleEastEye.net, coups on allies HTS rids Syria's Idlib of opponents. The Turks gathered all Islamists together under the National Front for Liberation. Their stars were Harakat Nawr al-Din al-Zenki, who were indistinguishable from the Islamic State. Obama armed and supported them. They beheaded 19-year-old Syrian Arab army soldier Abdullah al-Issa, who had thalassemia, a blood disorder that makes an adult look like a child. Al-Issa was kidnapped from a Syrian military hospital by Tulsi Gabbard's pal Assad and delivered to Zenki. HTS retreated deeper and deeper into Idlib Governorate, luring the National Front for Liberation, NFL, further from Turkish support. From January 1st, 2020, HTS launched 21 simultaneous ground offenses, killing virtually all Islamists of the NFL by January 10th. Zenki were the last survivors. Their convoy was stopped by air power, and as they tried to run to Afrin, they were all picked off. I have no idea what this HTS, quote, jihadist is wearing, but it's functional. The dark patches were covered by equipment. The light areas are the result of dust. He did not want to be filmed. Witnesses said that the running Zenki terrorists simply exploded. In conclusion, I continue to be shocked by the stupidity of the intelligentsia and the common sense of the rest of us. Tulsi Gabbard was preparing to destroy everything. She's crazier than Nancy Pelosi. Her soothing baritone and muscular butt had men of the country swooning. I loathed her the second I saw her. It was all in her eyes and that perpetual faint smile.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.